Oh, hello there. Yes, well, it's Vibrant Tuesday and perhaps expected news about Donald Trump. Glad to see that Elon Musk was right, apart from the fact that, Donald Trump won. It's amazing that we can see things that Elon Musk can't. And he's yet the brightest man in the world. That's odd, isn't it? Anyway, talking of incredibly bright people, following on from yesterday's video where I was suggesting that Nigel Farage won't stand, I had a very good reason for him not to yesterday because Jonathan Gullis, MP for South Scroatshire, has suggested if he comes onto the field of play, it will be Tory MPs like me that are no longer in Parliament. Yes, indeed. I think it's vital that Nigel Farage doesn't stand because I think the voters of South Scroatshire should get rid of Jonathan all on his own, except of course he won't blame the people for not voting for him because he's somewhat of a not brilliant human being. It'll be all the Marxists and probably Gary Lineker, let's face it. Because, this is the intrinsic problem that we have, of course, with the fag end of what might loosely be called our democracy here, is that we have a bunch of people in charge who will never, ever, 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 ever learn any lessons about anything, or indeed ever change unless you hold a gun to their head. Yes, it's that adult thing whereby you make up your mind when you're 14 and no amount of reality is going to get in the way, which kind of neatly brings us on to our political commentariat. Fraser Nelson, a man who describes himself as centre-right, but that's only if you're standing in a room full of people that are incredibly right-wing, and by incredibly right-wing I mean wearing jack boots and brown shirts. Yes, anyway, that kind of centre-right. Who gets this sort of platform, as people do, to pontificate wrongly about everything. Don't forget, he's a man who's still convinced that tax cuts magically will do something to the British economy. After 40 years they haven't, but he must be right. And a few days ago he was suggesting, for example, this little nugget about education, because obviously he knows everything about education because he's Fraser Nelson. He went to posh school, so must know everything. Children need the school inspectors back at work and tougher than ever, because all those children that aren't going to school for, probably reasons to do with the material reasons, as a Marxist might say, to do with the economy, in fact just need for the government to kind of slap them around a bit with some tough inspections. Just completely. In his article, he manages to kind of nod at all of those kind of psychological problems that head teachers are under, like committing suicide with Ofsted inspections, and then just brazenly suggest that we just need more of the same. Yes, of course we do, because that will get children back to work, back to school, won't it? Just tougher inspections. And again, just on a blunt level, these people have no notion. I don't know if it's quite deliberate. I think to a certain extent it is, of any form of irony about what they write. He likes to bang on about the free press whilst he works at The Spectator and the Daily Telegraph. So here we have a couple of tweets, right? A vibrant free press is the cornerstone of any democracy. The cuts at the Daily Mirror and now resignation of his editor. Bad news for readers and non-readers alike. Yes, a vibrant free press would be the cornerstone of a democracy if we had a vibrant free press, but we don't, do we? We have a vibrant press that's owned by incredibly rich people that you represent, Fraser. And here he is again with this whole, oh my God, foreign governments, aren't they awful thing? Government and the press ought to be kept separate. Leave that one hanging. This is the democratic tradition. Yes, indeed. Until, about 40 years ago with Rupert Murdoch. Don't mention him, eh? This is hard if government-owned publications, as the Emirates are now seeking to do with the Daily Telegraph and Spectator. Leading article on the current issue, blah, 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 blah. Please do buy it. Yes, or don't, is the case may be, because, of course, it would be deadly if the government ran things in terms of the press. Like, well, they do at the moment, don't they? Yes. Because they simply have these supine individuals who will only ever have one policy. It's tax cuts for the rich. Because once we get tax cuts for the rich, or some more tax cuts for the rich, it'll magically be enough tax cuts for the rich for everything to work out. Don't worry about those children not being at school. Don't worry about whether or not we're going to bomb Yemen, despite the fact it's been bombed over and over again. Don't worry about the Rwanda plan. If we're just more hardline about it, magically the world will shape its way around us, because we're adults and we cannot be wrong. Like Elon Musk. Guaranteed, Elon Musk was exactly right about the Iowa caucuses, apart from the fact that he was exactly wrong. But that won't stop him claiming that he was exactly right. Reality must bend to Fraser and the government's will. And here we are, the little people, staring on, pressing our nose up against the glass. All that business. Anyway, do have a lovely Tuesday. It's going to be such an interesting 2024, isn't it? Yes, we definitely live in interesting times. Best make the most of it whilst you can.